the Village Board meeting for January 12th to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gus.
Here.
Trustee Hucker.
Here.
Trustee Miller. Here. Trustee Otterson.
Here.
Trustee Siddick. Here. Trustee Wells. Mayor Jensen is absent. Clerk Savingros and Attorney Wagner.
All right, if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, it just got brighter.
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight, the first item to consider is the consent agenda. It consists of the approval of the board minutes of December 8th, the joint review board minutes of November 10th, and December 12th, 2011. Bills presented for payment as of January 9th, Planning, Building, Zoning, and TIF Committee monthly report, Economic Development, Public Relations monthly report, Public Works report, Finance report, and Parks and Recreation monthly report. Are there any items that would need to be discussed separately from the trustees? Is there any member of the public that would like to have any of these items discussed separately? There being none, I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterson.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick. Trustee Wells.
All right. The first report is mine, the Building, Zoning, and TIF Committee. We have one item to consider tonight, and that would be the Safi conditional use permit for a pawn shop to be located in the Gladstone Plaza at Lewis and Wadsworth. The Plan Commission met December 1st and heard the applicant's request to have the conditional use permit. The Plan Commission did recommend to approve the conditional use. It was unanimously. We had one absent, but 5 affirmative votes. So we have it before us tonight for consideration. This basically consists of a traditional pawn shop, and you have in the packet the report from our Rolf Campbell and Associates and the findings of fact, as well as the ordinance. And I was just looking for the additions that were recommended. Thank you. That was on page 2. There it is. Thank you. Specifically, the recommendations were that the petitioner comply with all applicable local, state, and federal ordinances and laws of operating pawn shop. Petitioner will provide for the village board's review prior to any approval any available information requiring relating to the operation of pawn shops, the effects of pawn shops on the character of neighborhoods. The village board review and establish any conditions concerning the operation of the property, operation and property business practices of a pawn shop as deemed necessary, and the operation of a pawn shop be limited only to goods of the size that can be stored interior to the store space, that no outdoor storage of goods be permitted. To that end, the first question that comes to mind is on the topic of ordinances. In our packet, we have a sample ordinance from the village of Elgin, I believe, city of Elgin, and I wanted to address this. Elgin is clearly indicating that they're a home rule unit. Do we have the same rights as a non-home rule community to legislate the use?
In this context, yes. You do not have the same rights as a home rule
Right.
community, but in this context, in the scope of what's being provided here by the suggestion, yes, you do.
Okay. Would it be, thinking about the order of events here, as we discuss the potential of having a village ordinance regulating pawn shops, would it be permissible or prudent to do that after we issued a conditional use for that business, or would it be more appropriate to have that ordinance in place prior to issuing?
Prior.
Okay. So that is one topic that the board needs to consider tonight, whether or not we want to have additional conditions in the form of an ordinance to regulate pawn shops operating within the village. The Elgin ordinance that is here is too lengthy to address specifically tonight, but it shows you an example of the types of things. They deal with their application process. They deal with the fact that there are fees, bonds required, license and permit bond, in order to properly monitor the business. There's specific requirements about who can run the business. And what the state statute seems to say is that you can, we as a municipality can legislate stricter requirements, but nothing less restrictive than the state law. Is that accurate? Okay. So certainly we have a copy of the state law here as well, which is the requirements specifically for the state license to operate that business. I guess I'm wide open to discussion prior to any consideration of the ordinance in front of us for approval of the conditional use as to whether or not the board feels that we need to or should consider an additional ordinance. No, we do not.
I just had a question.
Sure.
The operation that we're looking at is, we're looking at the operation of a pawn shop as well as a loan. I think that was indicated. Is that correct?
Yeah, the pawn shop business has an element of loaning money as a fundamental portion of it. In other words, it won't just be retail sales, but they'll actually be taking in merchandise as collateral for loans given.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And that's, I think, one of the main reasons why the state has the law and the Attorney General has the restrictions that they have.
Thank you.
I wonder if the attorney would mind explaining how sales tax works with an operation such as this.
If the pawn shop operator owns the goods that are being sold, no matter how he got them, whether he purchased them from a person at the counter and becomes owner that way, or as collateral for a loan, if there's a default on the loan and he levies on the collateral and becomes the owner by way of levying on the security for the loan, those items that are sold, he is a retailer of those types of items. So retail sales tax would apply in full, like at the mini marts or the sewing shop or whatever where they sell goods. If it's a consignment, and there isn't a lot of consignment with pawn brokers, if somebody has a World War II cannon that they want, and it costs too much for the pawn broker to purchase it, they may say, well, I'll take it on consignment and I'll sell it for you on a commission basis. Then there would not be sales tax unless the person that is selling the cannon, that owns the cannon, is a dealer in cannons, and then he's got an agent doing it, and then sales tax would be due. But if something is taken on a consignment, and that is not the majority of the business of a pawnbroker, then there would not be retail sales tax due on that.
So then it's just a partial situation.
It usually is a very small, sometimes there's a collectible item, a very collectible, very valuable item, and maybe they wouldn't go to this particular pawnbroker for something like that. They might go to an auctioneer. So the likelihood of there being little or no sales tax out of that operation it's unlikely. It's very remote. More likely there will be full sales tax that will be charged. He'd be obligated to charge it. It's not his option as a retailer.
In looking at the state statute that's regulating the pawn business, how is that enforced or regulated? Is it complaint-driven by customers? Is it an annual review? Is it, how is...
I was going to say, I did notice that there's a specific bureau or agency that is responsible. In fact, there's even a statement in there about whether it gets transferred over to another department, the Department of Professional Regulation or not. There was funding issues. But there is an agency who has that oversight, and I think you're correct. It would be primarily complaint-driven, whether it be from law enforcement or from individuals.
One section of the statute that you have in your packet says, pursuant to rule, which means regulations, the Secretary shall issue, this is state, Secretary of State, shall issue licenses on an annual or multi-year basis for operating pawn shops. So part of the enforcement is by the state, should they have the resources and personnel to be able to enforce their regulations. If a pawnbroker loses the state license, then they can't operate. So that, theoretically, that's a hammer
Right.
for enforcement, that they can yank their license.
So that's what, in thinking about the necessity to have a specific village ordinance relating to that, if we, as a village, were to get a complaint from a customer, I mean, I would think that we would pass it along to the Secretary of State or the Attorney General, or whoever presides over that, type thing, and, make them, unless you think there's something specific that we should have that's more stringent than the state statute. But I think that the state statute would be sufficient, in my opinion, for...
It's your baseline. It is your baseline.
It's your baseline.
It is the baseline, and...
Instead of delaying and incurring the expense of writing another ordinance and going through it line by line and coming up with our own ordinance.
Well, the exemplary ordinance that's in here has I think some good additional requirements, such as limitations on operation. You don't want a shop that's open at 3 a.m. when all the bars close because the watches and bling that was won at the poker game that night is now converting it to cash. You just don't want to have an environment available for something like that. And the state statute doesn't regulate hours of operation.
In addition,
Do we not regulate that in our business district at all, hours of operation?
well, also you'll notice one of the first issues that they address is the number of licenses that they will issue, and they've set their number at 1. So the question of how many, much like a liquor license, you can always increase or whatever the number, but if you don't regulate it at all, then there's no entitlement, or there is an entitlement, so to speak. If you can get through the Plan Commission, then you're entitled to go get the license and operate the business. Do we want to control that? It's a question. I'm not necessarily saying one way or the other, but I'm not picturing Beach Park becoming a pawn shop central for the county or anything, but clearly Elgin saw fit to consider that. So there's another point that this might do. Additionally, they do have a local arm then who is getting to know who's going to be running the business through the background check by identifying who the owners are. None of that information would necessarily be available to us if we weren't regulating it ourselves.
It's like a liquor license in that regard with the background checks. It's a special classification of business in the state of Illinois, as represented by the lengthy statute that's been passed by the legislature, recognizing that these are somewhat unique. So you would probably want to deal with, from a local level, you want to have some unique regulatory provisions that help to contain it. And, maybe it'll turn out to be something that we'll see on, the Sportsman's Channel someday. It'd be a very successful operation and a good operator. You don't know, though, going in. And you don't want them to proliferate. This is also located in if my recollection is correct, in a shopping center area. So it's not like it's an isolated, building or house kind of on the outskirts where there isn't too much notice given to it. This This is in a commercial area. So that also has, I think, some containment in and of itself. But by putting in the additional regulations, you're holding them to a standard that any good business operator should not have any objection to. But then it's also a basis if it gets out of line or problematic from a law enforcement standpoint, then you can yank the local license. And the statute says where a local license is required, they shall obtain and maintain that local license as a condition to keeping the state license. So the two work together. Our ordinance will say they have to have that state license. So if one or the other goes sour, then they can't operate.
In your open plan, I see it says that the hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Is want to allow that, or do we?
In the ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah, and that would certainly be to our advantage to consider regulating those hours as part of the ordinance, as opposed to trying to establish some other method of doing it. It's specific to the type of business. We do regulate hours on establishments selling alcohol, for example. It's like another parallel there. Yes.
I was just going to say, I do like the idea of us having the ability to be able to evaluate each one on a case-by-case basis in terms of doing background checks. Individuals have been known to get creative in the business world, and in case we have an individual that comes in and come up with a creative concept of dealing with pawns and possibly over and above that, I think that having some type of regulatory mechanism in place would give us some control to be able to evaluate those on a case-by-case basis, which I think would benefit us.
The nature of us requiring a license to operate the business does give us a certain level of control, as the state is doing. It brings it to the local level and gives us that control, or that monitoring and response, as opposed to just simply forwarding a complaint on to the Secretary of State or whomever that might be. It's something that we would have the option to deal with locally as to whether or not we want that license to continue. So for that reason, I like the idea. I also like the idea of the application process and the information exchange that we'll get as a result of that. Our business license is very brief and very standard. This is a unique business, a heavily regulated business, and I think it's in our citizens' best interest to have that information locally and available.
Well, is this something we need to take action on tonight, or is
No,
this something
well,
we should table?
If we're going to consider the ordinance, then our advice from council is not to take action on the ordinance approving the conditional use tonight. But in fairness, we would want to go through the rest of the items before we put this issue to bed. Do we have a consensus of the board at this point to let's just do this. I'm trying to think if we want to put this in a formal motion or we just want to do a straw poll here. Yes, Larry, please.
Question, please. All the points you brought up about the ordinance that we've already kind of discussed anyway, and they're right in line with what your thoughts are. But in the application, if you realize it, there's a furniture store there also that they plan on running right along with the pawn shop. We had talked the other day, and we didn't know if you guys were going to need another ordinance to come in on top of it. And they were wondering if they would be able to operate the furniture store during the time frame of giving you guys enough time to put the ordinance together and get maybe the cases in place, but absolutely no operation of the pawn shop in any way, shape, or form, but the the furniture store, if that was possible.
Yeah, the retail sales is a permitted use in that zone, and a simple business license, and you're basically off and running with that. I would caution, though, that no advertising of that nature, you have to watch what you call yourself, and
Well, I had asked, I believe it was Sally, or
Sandy?
Sandy?
Sandy, I'm sorry. If, early on, if that would have been the case, I forgot to ask her before we submitted the application, but she had mentioned once we started with the application, it needed to stay in its entirety.
Well,
And so that's the reason I'm bringing it up now.
it would be, in essence, much like you were running two businesses or you were adding this to the business. We all have our eyes open. We all know what's being applied for and considered here. I would see nothing wrong with staff taking that business license application to start the furniture store, but as long as everybody understands. Assuming we proceed with the local ordinance to regulate pawn businesses, that application has to be filled out and it has to pass muster, and so as long as there's no implied thoughts that we're endorsing this in any way, I don't see a problem.
Another part of it is they have their application for the state and that all ready to submit.
Yep.
But as Mr. Magna probably knows, there's almost $1,000 fee that goes along with it. So we were kind of waiting to see what direction we were going here before we submitted the other
Sure.
financials.
Sure. I don't know how to answer that particular part of the question until after there's a vote taken.
Well, the question was, within the process of drafting another ordinance for that, would they, it will be contingent then possibly upon the draft of the ordinance.
I see what you're saying.
To submit for the licensing. I mean, which comes first,
Would they sign their lease with the landowner before they knew they were going to have the ability to operate the pawn shop?
that contingent?
Because that's also a leap of faith.
That they-
They do not have a lease?
Well, we have the lease in place, everybody is on board with the lease, and it's sitting there. But that lease is contingent upon
Approval.
the conditional use permit.
Is the entire store area going to be, the dimensions of the pawn shop area? You mentioned that they're going to also have a retail furniture sale business there. But is this request for the entire unit to be special use for a pawn shop?
One thing, I'm going to address it first, then you tell how big of an area. The store is about 4,000 square feet approximately. And the front end of the store, there's a partition, if anybody had been in there when the rental place was there. The partition is there, and I don't know exactly how far back that is going to be carried back. But the majority of the store will be for the furniture, and then a smaller area will be for the pawn shop area.
The application was for that space. It wasn't specified any number of square feet or up to or anything like that. It was.
So
Their general idea is if you needed to put a number to it, and by the way it's been explained, it would be probably one-fifth or one-quarter of the store would be pawn shop area, and then the balance would be office and
No.
consideration.
My inclination is to not try to condition approval subject to, because we don't know what that ordinance what form that may take, and or when that might actually be prepared. I mean, there's no reason to think it will take a long time, but it does have to make it through the board process, so Do we have a consensus?
Are you looking for a motion, or are you just looking
Well,
for...
I'm looking for a consensus of whether first we want to even consider drafting an ordinance.
I think we should draft an ordinance.
I would say no.
Larry,
Yes.
you'd be in favor?
No.
You would not be in favor of us having an ordinance? Okay. And Richard, yes? And I would say yes. So I would think we have a consensus that we would want to proceed and draft an ordinance to regulate the pond business.
The Elgin model.
Using the Elgin model and customizing it to the village. That being said, we need to,
Continue, can we make a motion to continue this to the next meeting?
I'd like to address items 2, 3, and 4, just to make sure that we've discussed everything thoroughly prior.
Okay.
Item 2 is the petitioner will provide the village board review, for the village board's review prior to any approval, any available information and requirement relating to operation of pawn shops and the effects of pawn shops on the character of the neighborhoods. The petitioner has dropped off some information for us. We just got it tonight, so I don't expect anyone has read it. I would say that the Plan Commission has asked for something that's virtually impossible to provide, and that says any available information regarding the operation of pawn shops. That's a big, tall order. The developer, or the petitioner has dropped off some information, and I guess I would encourage the board to review that prior to any conditional use vote, so you're well-versed in at least what the petitioner has presented. So keep that handy with this issue. The third item, that the village board review and establish any conditions concerning the operation and property business practices of a pawn shop as deemed necessary. I would have to say that we're going to address that primarily in the ordinance, and that would be the conditions concerning the operation of a pawn shop within the Village Beach Park. There are no conditional use conditions, if I could say it that way, for the operation of a pawn shop in our zoning ordinance at this time. So I think what they're addressing are hours of operation and maybe other aspects like that. So we will be covering that. And then number 4, the operation of the pawn shop be limited to only goods of the size that be stored interior. Well, that's a condition that was discussed at the meeting and agreed upon by the petitioner. No outside storage, no cars, no motor vehicles outside, anything like that. So on that note then, I guess we should have a motion to table this until such time as a ordinance has been drafted for our consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Nay.
Trustee Otteson.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick.
Nay.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
And Trustee
Aye. Okay. That item is tabled. Moving on, Public Works Report. Trustee Otteson.
Thank you. There's nothing on the agenda for a Public Works report tonight. I believe Public Works-related items will be discussed by Tracy tonight. So somebody more talented than myself is going to handle that. I've been demoted, so I will defer my time to her later.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Public Relations and Economic Development Report. Trustee Miller.
Thank you. Just one item, this is informational only. At the last Economic Development Commission meeting, we were visited by some representatives from Zion, Winthrop Harbor, and the Benton Township, and these people came to talk to the Economic Development Committee to see if there was any interest in joining a new Northeastern Chamber of Commerce that they are trying to form, and this would be made up of Beach Park, Zion, Winthrop Harbor, and Wadsworth. And these people are going from community to community to assess interest, and the Economic Development Committee was completely supportive of our joining. So I will keep the board advised as we move forward. That ends my report.
Great. Thank you very much. Intergovernmental Affairs. Trustee Wells.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no report tonight.
Right. Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gust.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have a report either tonight.
Oh, you guys are doing great. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Siddick.
I have no report tonight, thank you.
All right. Village Treasurer is not here. Village Engineer, oh, here's a guy that can talk.
I do have a report.
Chip, go right ahead.
I have two items this evening. First item for your consideration is the approval of the final pay request for the 2011 CDBG street resurfacing project. This was a project that actually resurfaced portions of Ames, California, Garrity, and Holdridge, basically in the vicinity of Sheridan Road and Wadsworth Road. That area is CDBG eligible for CDBG funds. The pay request basically is just for a few small ticket items and the 10% retainage which is being held for the project. Our HMG, we inspected and observed the construction of it. The project is a little bit under budget. The majority of this project actually is from CDBG funds. I think the village's portion was about 20% of the total project cost. So the funds that, since it is a little bit under budget, those funds can come back to other projects for MFT. We reviewed the pay request and the supporting documentation, and everything seems to be in order. That being said, we'd ask for a motion to approve final pay request for the 2011 CDBG street resurfacing project in the amount of $11,222.21 to Peter Baker and Son.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Chip, you say we still are holding 10% for landscaping in the spring, or?
We are not in this particular case. Everything seemed to be coming up pretty nicely, so I wasn't too concerned about that based on what I've seen. So,
All right, thanks.
Any other discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick. Aye. Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gust.
Aye.
Trustee Stewart.
Aye.
okay, and then the last item is actually kind of a status update on the progress on the Beach Road reconstruction. We've actually gone through and prepared we have prepared what would be considered the pre-final plans for the reconstruction of Beach Road. It's basically considered 95% complete. We've actually forwarded the plans on to the village staff for their review, also to IDOT as well. The project is actually eligible for STP funds, which stands for Surface Transportation Program. STP projects, actually, it's a 70-30 split, where 70% of the project is actually federally funded, 30% is actually then matched by the village. The project then is actually advertised, bid by IDOT, and actually the contract is let by IDOT then. They are the ones that actually wind up awarding the contract. What then happens is that IDOT then bills the village. They actually pay the contractor, and then they bill the village for their portion, 30% of the project. The village then, in turn, is actually responsible for overseeing and administering the contract. So you would have the engineer actually be on site, watching the progress of the work, submitting the pay request to IDOT, and basically making sure that it adheres to the plans and specifications. Based on IDOT's schedule, as far as our submitting the plans, the earliest at which the project could be let or awarded to a contractor is their April 27th letting. That being said, if it were to go forward and that were the bid date, we're estimating that the project could actually be completed by the end of the year. Okay. As far as cost, once we designed the project, went through, figured out all the costs and everything else to do it, we came up with construction and construction engineering between $2.5 and $2.6 million. What that entails is the complete reconstruction of the storm sewer system, the complete reconstruction from the base all the way up of the roadway, and the inclusion of a 8-foot wide recreational bicycle path which would actually parallel
the entire length of the roadway. So we'd be starting from the western edge of the cemetery, which is the village boundary, and then it would continue all the way to Sheridan Road, and this path would actually follow all the way along that alignment. Currently, the path is 8 foot wide, or actually, there's two 12-foot lanes. There's two 12-foot lanes. We've talked to IDOT as well. There is a possibility of reducing costs. We may be able to reduce the lane width from, say, 12 to 11 and a half, or from 12 to 11 to actually reduce some of the costs involved on the project. As far as the project, the construction of the project would go, we have it planned for actually 2 phases. One phase would actually start on the western edge by the cemetery, go to North Avenue. Then that section would be completed. The second phase would start, then from North Avenue to Sheridan Road would be the second phase, and that section would then be completed. During the course of the project, there would be continuous flow of traffic, one-way traffic going eastbound. Westbound traffic would have to be diverted around, would be detoured around the construction area. We figured based on looking at the travel patterns and the way people, the dead-end streets, and the way everything was kind of laid out in the village, we thought we needed to keep one lane of traffic open at all times so everyone had access to their homes during the process. The best way to do it was actually have everyone go eastbound. That's the reason for it. If there's any other questions, I can certainly entertain those with regards to the project.
Just a curious question, where we cross over the Bull Creek Ravine, is there work to be done there, or do we tighten things up as we go across?
It actually, the way it's set up right now, there's 5 feet between the edge of the roadway, or the back of curb. It's curb and gutter. Mm-hmm. So from the back of the curb, there's a 5-foot separation to the path. Mm-hmm. When you come to the creek, it necks down.
Yep.
And it actually runs parallel to it. Actually, there's a guardrail then that separates the path from the actual roadway.
Gotcha.
Is how that works. It all fits right within, there's no widening at all there. It all fits right within the guardrails that are there right now.
Cool.
So.
Good.
With the bike path, Chip, do you anticipate any difficulty with, does that mean we're going to have to acquire?
No, everything fits within the current right-of-way. There's actually, for a project like this is about as straightforward as you can get. There's no right-of-way that's required. There's no environmental issues that are required. It's basically taking what is there, removing it, replacing it, starting over, and making it better than what it was. Part of the problem now is that the pavement and the base is in terrible, terrible condition. Anytime, in fact, I think it was only about 5 or 6 years ago that it was actually resurfaced, and I think you can kind of see the condition of the roadway now. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to do that. So anything you do now is just a Band-Aid on it. It really needs to be reconstructed from the base all the way up.
To work within the existing right-of-way, we did, the bike path does cross the road halfway through. It jumps across, because of the right-of-way width.
Yeah, it actually starts on the north side and connects to the sidewalk over by Waukegan.
Tourist Farm.
Over by Tuas Farm, yeah, absolutely. Follows along the cemetery, and then right at Tuas, I think it's Tuas Court, it actually crosses at that point, goes to the south side, and then follows on the south side all the way through. So it goes by the park then. Mm-hmm. It's the park.
It's going to be nice. People have been asking for that for years, for a way to keep the bicycles off of Beach Road and get to between Tuas Farms and the park. And all the way in between, there's a lot of homes in there, so it's...
I'm sure it'll be widely used.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, what would be nice now is that it will actually, there'll be a connection point from the bike path in Waukegan right there, going north and south. There's a connection from that now people can go by the park, utilize the park, and then actually get to Sheridan Road as well.
Right.
So.
Good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, Ken?
Just one question for Chip. I believe there's some paperwork with IDOT that needs to be sent in first part of February that you guys are going to be preparing. I spoke to Marshall yesterday, and if you can get that work done the council needs to consider that at their next meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely,
I just
yes.
want to make sure you guys are preparing it.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, obviously, part of with this, there's agreement that between the state and the village. Standard agreement that IDOT has, we're preparing the agreement for you guys to consider, to take a look at. Obviously, once that agreement is executed, that kind of commits the village to the project then.
And as far as the timing goes, you're going to get that done this week, so you can get it to Mr. Magnus, to give him a chance to review it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Chip. Village Coordinator, Tracy.
Thank you. I have two items. The first of which is to consider passage of an ordinance approving an agreement between the Village of Beach Park and M.E. Simpson Company for the valve assessment program. Ken and I met with Gene, and it is actually a budgeted item. It's in the budget. He said, Gene had discussed with us the importance of what he called valve exercising, so that if there's an emergency and the valves need to be opened, that they open a lot easier if they're exercised on a regular basis, so every year or 2 years.
I know I don't exercise on a regular basis, and when there's an emergency, I have a heck of a time getting going.
Actually, we're hoping that in an emergency, the valves would need to be closed. They should be open now, but that's,
Open or closed, either way.
Well, yeah, and I have to say that Gene has done a lot of work with the M.E. Simpson. That's the
Yes,
same
he
company
has.
that does the leak surveys. When when we can't find a leak, they've got a lot of sounding equipment, and they do, so we've got a good relationship with them. And when I saw that they're doing it for $48 per valve, I don't think I would do it for $48 per valve. It's a
They have a
great
machine
deal.
that does it.
I've done it with the machine before, and it's still, your back is still involved, because the machine is heavy. But anyway, so I think it's a good, so if you're looking for a motion, do you need a motion for this?
Yes.
I'd make the motion that we approve the contract between the village and Simpson for the valve exercising.
That is ordinance number 1 for 2012. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Ottersson.
Aye.
Trustee Siddick.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hooker.
Aye.
And Trustee...
Aye.
Okay, and the second item is consider for passage an ordinance approving a proposal between the Village of Beach Park and B&F Technical Code Services for plan review and inspection administrative service.
And this ordinance is a result of the vacancy that we currently have in the Building and Zoning Department. This allows us to have a part-time building administrator to stay in compliance with all of our codes and ordinances that will oversee our building department in the interim between now and whatever the final picture will look like. So I would make a motion approving the ordinance between the Village of Beach Park and B&F Technical Code Services for plan review and inspection administrative services. And
John, I've got a question. I'm just wondering, will they also be have oversight for smaller projects?
We will continue to utilize our existing inspectors as we have been. They will be doing plan reviews for residential and commercial plan reviews, as well as certain inspections that our staff is not qualified to make.
That's primarily new construction? I mean, such as decks and sheds, they wouldn't...
Would be new constructions, remodels, whatever structural. We don't have anyone on staff to do structural inspection, so they would do that. The fee that's spelled out in here, the $1,000 a month fee, is to think of it almost as a retainer, but the benefit is that we get 10 hours of their time in-house to do whatever needs to be done, and then in addition, inspections and that are on a per inspection basis. So it's a very minimalistic agreement. They offer a lot of services that we won't necessarily be using. However, should we need them, they are there for us.
Yeah, I've actually worked with them quite a bit over the years, so I'm familiar with the operation, so Okay, thank you.
We still need a second? Oh,
No, I have a
let's-
question.
Let's get a second, and then we'll keep the
Okay,
discussion.
second.
We have a motion, a second, a discussion.
The question as far as who will prepare the items that this consultant will come in and work on, would that be you, Mr. Marabella, when he's here?
The process will basically remain the same. When people come to the window and they submit applications, Donna Perez will be the one that would initiate the processing. Anything for which we would need to have the building commissioner sign or review, she will then pass on to them. They will be coming regularly, one morning a week. We have already taken the liberty of scheduling them for next Monday morning to meet with all of our inspectors. I think Mayor Pro Tem Hucker said it pretty well. It's a very minimal way to cover the interim situation of not having the building commissioner while covering it with very highly credentialed people. So really nothing much should change.
It's a nice time of year to be phasing into something like this, too, because building is at a minimal level as well, so.
Sure is. We get a little free time to figure it out right now, which is great. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Siddick.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
And Trustee Addison.
Aye.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Village Attorney.
Yes, thank you. Trustees, you have before you at item 8A, a letter of agreement pertaining to property at 12886 Peacock Lane. It is a letter of agreement for a permit to connect to a water system that is part of SSA number 7's water system. As you know, the residents of SSA number 7 are being taxed to pay for the bonded indebtedness that the proceeds from which were used to install that water system. This property on Peacock is right across the street from one of the water mains, but is not within the SSA 7. Apparently, an emergency developed there where the well went down, and the property owner, who rents that property, is my understanding, came to the village to seek a water connection permit, paid all the fees, submitted the permit application, and was issued a permit. What has come up, and will continue to come up without a policy toward this, is you have people paying a goodly amount of taxes to pay for that water line, and somebody else across the street, not being taxed for it, comes in and requests utilization of that water line. What you have before you this evening, because when I was made aware of this, we were able to work with staff and kind of put the brakes on this and come to an understanding, eventually laid into this letter of agreement, this agreement with the property owner, that recognizing that others have bought and paid for this water system there, and that this new applicant should pay a fair share toward that. Now, the way to absolutely assure that the fair share is going to be paid is to have this property added to the special service area. Then they'll get on the special tax roll, and they will be taxed accordingly. It will bring down slightly, ever so slightly, because it's just one residential parcel comprised of, what I understand, 3 small lots. Slightly, but again, buying into it for costs going forward. I think SSA 7 is a couple of years old, is only a couple of years old, so there hasn't been a lot that's been missed. This letter does not contemplate any recoupment for back taxes, because then you'd have to get into, well, then how do you divvy it up and distribute it? It's for going forward. The letter states that the property owner consents to an enlargement of SSA number 7 to include her property, will not object to it. and understands that taxes will be levied for it. That's essentially it. If she does that, in other words, if the SSA is enlarged to include this lot, we have the issue that she paid these permit fees, or some of these permit fees. And the understanding that I have from Tracy, and maybe Peggy also, was that the property owners in SSA 7 did not pay connection fees because the policy, which is not an unusual policy at all, it's rather normal, was that if they buy and pay for this water line, the village did not charge them connection fees to connect to the water line that they actually paid to have installed. So the same benefit would go to this property owner, that there would be a refund of most of what was paid up front for the connection fee. We're holding that, and the refund of $4,400 of the $4,900 that was paid, because there's a $500 fee paid to Waukegan, capital improvement fee or something with each water connection permit. That still has to be paid to Waukegan, so this property owner will pay that. And so upon enlargement of the SSA, meaning the process has been completed, I'm going to speak to that in a second, that process. The process has been completed, that property is now on the special tax roll and will be levied taxes along with everyone else in that special service area. Then the village will refund $4,400 of the $4,900 that has been paid. So it except for 2 years' worth of taxes and probably 1 year worth of taxes, because if SSA 7 was established 2 years ago, it probably was, the taxes didn't hit until the following year. And there was probably some capitalization of some interest on that bond, although I didn't study it. So there really isn't much of a difference.
Right.
There will be essentially 1 year's worth of taxes not paid by her. So what is before you tonight is this letter of agreement, the terms of that letter of agreement, and if the board would approve the letter of agreement, we then would move forward to enlarging the special service area. Now, I think that's a one-lot special service area as it is.
Correct.
This would, I guess there's two ways of looking at it. It increases the size of it by, the number of lots by,
It doubles
them, but it's not large to begin with. The downside is it's a special service area, whether it's 1 lot or 1,000 lots. So there's a process to be gone through. There's the necessity of preparing the ordinance. It's the same process you went through to form the special service area, without the any bonding or any other financial consideration. So you have to pass your notice, ordinance of intent to expand the special service area, hold your public hearing, publish for the public hearing, give the time frames that are called for in the statute for special service areas, which is 60 days wait, and then no sufficient objections, and we've got a waiver here. So you will not get an objection. I don't think the person whose property taxes are going to decrease by 50% is going to object to it. That wouldn't be sufficient anyhow, because they have to be 51% of property owners' objection. So, but you have to go through that process. It will not be elaborate. It will be bare bones kind of a process, but it tightens that up, and in a sense of fairness to the person who paid for that water main to be extended, which is accessible now to this applicant, it's the right thing to do. The other thing would be to hold out as a condition, although the permit was issued prematurely, it should have been kind of a flagged line that would call into at least awareness that it's a special service area, until the village board gets a policy on how you're going to deal with
Well, that's another issue.
public benefit, to these things. And it can be done, and we can have a discussion at the appropriate time for that. But you got a situation here. We do have some cooperation, I think significant cooperation, that the person's willing to join. So,
What type of costs might be incurred in preparing?
probably about $2,000.
And if I'm not mistaken, in previous SSAs, as they were created, it would have been normal to include legal fees, engineering fees, and all of that into the
It was.
initial issue.
That was all part of installing the water main.
Correct. So now we've got a $2,000 expense to be borne by
Village.
Village.
the village because the property owner who owned the property at the time refused to join the SSA.
Correct.
So...
Now, here's my 2 cents on that very issue. The reason we're doing this is because we,
I'm sorry, Ken? Oh, sorry, we're going to have a sidebar. Go ahead.
can I go ahead?
Sure.
We promised the people in those SSAs that if someone else were to hook up and benefit from it, that we would make them join, and kind of like a recapture fee. They paid for it, someone else is hooking up to it, so they deserve to get that main partially paid for by the other person's fair share, like Rudy said. One of the reasons we waived the connection fee, in addition to what Rudy already said, was because at that time, each one of those homeowners also had to pay the $3,200 recapture fee to Cambridge.
Correct.
Now, since that time, we as a village have purchased that entire recapture fee for water and sewer in that whole area, so that's no longer an issue. They don't have to pay that anymore. So if we in fact go back and waive this connection fee, we're giving these people that neglected, refused, however you want to look at it, to join the first time around, an added bonus of not only waiving the connection fee, but they don't have to pay, we've already paid their recapture fee for them. And like he said, we're incurring these legal expenses to do this. So, I believe the discussion at the time was to, okay, this is your chance to have the connection fee waived if you join now. Later on, if the necessity comes up and you need to hook up to the main, you can hook up to the main, but you have to join the SSA and you have to pay the connection fee.
Well, and that's where I was going with the discussion of what the expense would be to the village, because in essence, we're subsidizing the situation. I'll be interested to hear what our sidebar generates here.
Yeah, and the problem is, and what we discussed at the last board meeting, why this is here, is that he was told, whether in error or not, that, last we waived the connection fee for everybody to join those things, so I'm sure we'll refund you the money if you do that.
Yeah.
Well, we dropped the ball at some point and did not come up with a policy. And we've now got another one, a very similar situation, a couple streets over, that we really need to talk about. Gina posed the question to Rudy. The question came back, it said, short answer, and then there was like a 6-page answer behind that, and they lost me after paragraph 2. So if that was the short answer, I'd hate to see the long one. So we do need a policy so that the staff knows what to do when these people come in.
Part of the reason we're even doing this because the permit was issued prematurely.
Correct.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, yeah. I mean, procedurally, going forward, this next one, we've obviously identified it out of the gate. We've not issued any permits, and everything will be conditioned by what we end up deciding from a policy standpoint. But we're trying to come to a solution for the situation at hand here, so.
Okay. Does this mean maybe it's break time?
Would you like a break? Let's take a 5-minute recess.
I say we all go out and join in and see what they're talking about.
Right.
5-minute recess. We'll be back in 5.
I just want to get up.
This is the original letter of agreement, or the one that we were discussing when we wrote up. This is how this is actually. And she has the original, so I think you just probably need to check on this.
Need a copy of the original.
Okay, I'm a girl scout leader. I have the measure of the chip works in the
Sit up straight. Richard.
Yeah, right.
No, I know, I said, you told me that last time. It was long. Oh, yeah, that's
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. She don't want to, fine.
Oh, you know that too? Yeah, I used to work with his mother. Yeah, you can call that up. Oh.
But that was, how many years ago now? That's right. Well, let's keep it that way. After these talking about hopefully we can fail to come up with it. So they need to do that quickly.
Here's the next one.
There's a pool with the bike, carriage or two. And I asked.
These are 3 lots.
Okay?
Water main and right there. They're in the SSA. Our ordinance would require there's a water main to your house, you gotta hook up. Okay? Well, this guy just purchased his property.
It's going okay. Yeah, it's, yeah, we're trying to get a project.
Down here is swamp. So it's no big deal. He's not an SSA. It's not really. Does the old ordinance override the SSA ordinance? Yeah, that's the one. He said here's the short answer.
Because what we're going to start with now.
Now, as the lots sell and as the wells run dry and everything else, it's up to
Other than we got
Very noisy.
So just drink once.
Hey, man, we're never going to go home.
What is this, a 2-night in a row, late night or what? I'm not sure how I can see it.
I can see it.
Larry looks good up there.
We also left Larry a little note here. He said better today, thanks. He has some like fun in the car.
Gonna be another long way. Well, we're getting there, we're getting close. We may not make it home, look at the blizzard outside.
Oh my goodness, my ears are lighted with an arrow to make sure.
Let's let it get it out of its system. Tonight's no problem, it's running water, everybody's gonna wanna move. Better leave tonight. Hopefully it's for a fun trip.
This is lots of girls and but I think Milby came to visit the first of the week.
Yeah, oh, that's true. That's right. That's a very good point.
I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Oh, we're never going to go home.
I don't think so. I'm starving.
I know. I ate before I came.
He said, all right, I gotta.
Okay.
He just took it.
Mayor Larry? You're doing a great job. Oh, that's nice, Larry. Thank you.
It was chilly outside.
So I'd like to make a motion that Larry warms my chair before every meeting.
All right. Hey, John, I might get comfortable there, so we'll pass on that one.
All right. Our 5-minute recess has expired. Do we need a roll call coming back from a recess?
Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Gus,
Here.
trustee Hucker, trustee Miller, trustee Otterson, okay, trustee Siddick, trustee Wells, there's everybody left. So-
I'm here.
You're here.
No, still not here. Okay. It's come to our attention that we have more questions and answers on this particular topic, and we need to do a little additional research to verify the facts, so we should table this.
I make a motion we table this issue.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second.
And a third.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is tabled. I'm going to trust you to hold on to that.
Tracy.
Okay. All right, so then, on to whatever you got next.
My next report, 8B, is for the board to consider passage of an ordinance approving an agreement for professional management services with Marabella Associates, Inc. Just a brief background. Mr. Marabella has left the employ of Manhart Associates, who is the company we have the present professional management services contract for Ken Services. And we have negotiated with Ken an agreement that is similar, but not exactly the same, because there is a lower rate of compensation in the agreement than was with the Manhart agreement. But the duties, services, responsibilities, et cetera, are the same as you have previously approved. I have spoken with the attorney for Manhart, very cooperative, and agrees that Manhart will sign they actually have already signed a document saying if the village enters into an agreement with Marabella Associates, that Manhart's agreement will terminate at that time, and the village will only be responsible for services or obligations to Manhart up to the time of that agreement. So it couldn't be any smoother of a transition, and you have the agreement before you.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I just have a quick question.
Could we get a motion in a second, please, and then we'll discuss?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
This was not to exceed 80 hours a month?
It is set actually to average. It's not a firm number. Is that your understanding, Ken? We are trying to be as flexible as we can in our transition time here, but it's estimated that it should average at 80.
Super. Thank you.
Other questions? There being none, roll call, please. Ordinance number 3, right?
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Addison.
Aye.
Trustee Siddiq. Aye. And Trustee Wells.
Aye. You can sign up the agreement with Ken a little later, but I want to get this done tomorrow. Thanks.
All right. Anything additional in your report?
Not for open session, but we have our general item 12, executive session, and I do need a few moments of time to discuss pending litigation.
Thank you. Village clerk's report.
I have the report.
All right. I have one item. Received a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association, and I'll basically read the letter. It's addressed to the Honorable Milton C. Jensen. Dear Mayor Jensen, I'm pleased to notify you that the Village of Beach Park has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association. This award is the highest form of recognition in government budgeting and represents significant achievement by your organization. When a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for the budget presentation is also presented to the individual or department designated as being primarily responsible for having achieved this award. This has been presented to John Clark, Treasurer. We hope you will arrange for a formal presentation of the award and appreciate appropriate publicity will be given to the notable achievement. A press release is enclosed for your use. We appreciate your participation in the GFOA's Budget Awards Program sincerely. So just public recognition. I wish John was here. I apologize for not coordinating this a little bit better. But Tracy, we do have a nice press release in this folder, and I'll forward this on to you, and you can see to it that the press is notified. That concludes my report. Any citizen? Carrie? Nothing?
Calls, I do.
We have no citizens to address the board other than my lovely bride. And everything's all good. Okay, well, that's as good as it gets.
Hey, that's good. That's good.
So we do have an item for executive session pending litigation as relayed from our attorney. We'll just run next door here. We need a motion to adjourn to executive session. So we have a motion and a second. We need a roll call.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Addison. Trustee Siddiq. Aye. And Trustee Wells.
Hi.
Okay, we are adjourned to executive session.
And do you want, can we have Chip come into this?
Yes, we can have Chip come in.
And Ken is going to come in?
Anybody you want, everybody can come. Oh,
Well, I just want Chip because of...
Yeah, for sure.
How you doing, Lori? Good. I came in to put my little cat out there. I wanted to check. I just have... You know, we've all got I will. I'll call. No, I know how that goes. It won't take long. I hope.
Don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, doesn't Culver's call me?
Is it cold in here, Larry?
Oh, it's going to get up.
Very chilly. I'm gonna start my car.
That's what I was thinking of doing, actually.
That's right, you
I'll
can
go
smell.
start, so I could just go upstairs and.
Oh, nice. Take you, yeah, get it.
I gotta go to the bathroom first.
Is there a recorder in the, in the boardroom there?
I think it's in your office.
Okay, 'cause I didn't know that
Yeah, it's making them scramble, this is not good. It's like, dude. There you go, it's all dark, I have no clue. Yeah, it's memory's low, and I'm going, hopefully to be replaced soon, so it can go ahead and be low, but still. How you doing, Andre? I'm not getting paid enough for this. No. Hey, some days it's good, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's a little longer, you know? Milky's not here with it, you know? All goes crazy. Having to get back in the groove of going back to school, now that was a... Oh, yeah. You find something? Oh, you're not worried.
Oh, I heard it. Who's up there?
They're, Mark, they're looking for, they need to record executive sessions.
So what do they need then? A recorder?
Yeah, she had a little hand recorder, I don't know where it
Oh, are you
is.
serious? Oh, I haven't seen it at all. I didn't know that they actually had to be like tape recorded.
Yeah, I don't know what she did with that little one she has. She's- Find it?
We found something.
Okay.
Tracy, your card number.
Thank you, Mark. Too bad Andre doesn't pay by the hour.
But I was just saying, yes, sometimes he's only here 20 minutes.
Right.
and Get the good with the bad.
The problem is during executive session, you can't hear nothing, so you just sit there all bored.
If I had known, I would told him to bring his little PSP and he could play a game.
Right.
Want to play a game on my phone? Who's going to that? The officer?
Oh, yeah, must be, yeah. Yeah.
What kind of phone you have?
I call it insanity, but it's something close to that.
Infinity or something?
Yeah.
Do you go online?
Intensity.
Do you have?
No.
Oh, okay, because on my BlackBerry, I can go online and then I can clear the
Well,
cache and with that
I
helps
am
memory.
patiently waiting for the replacement of this to come in. But he's getting the whole company, and we're waiting for the last couple
yes.
people to do it, and then he's got to finalize the deal, and I'm like, I've been working on this since November. I had it picked out. It's like, not that I'm impatient, but
Do you work for Hunter Electric?
no.
So do you come
In a way.
Yeah, you know, is it running like they all do?
No.
Okay.
No, yeah.
I try to leave that.
It's one of my
When's
perks.
the sergeant? I mean,
Not well, I picked
they,
this up.
when it's like this out, they don't mind when I do service. Like, I know they do different.
It's, yeah, it's one of their lines, I guess.
Well, I always think because, you know, yes, and they had to respond immediately, they've got to have a reliable mode of transportation to get there, so.
In the summer, it's really not that big of a deal. In the old place, we have to keep our cars running
Probably a
close
good thing, because I had no
because the
time.
repeaters were going to send it out,
Yes,
it's
but-
powered by the car being out.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like the radio, like the car radio, you turn off the car, your radio didn't work.
Mhm.
But now, that's not the case anymore.
We had a Yugo, that's what we brought out here from California. I actually drove it up on the thing we had. If I knew they were gonna do that, I would have had a camera when they were doing it. Because my husband was out here at the Rock Island Arsenal, and I was in charge of getting everything loaded up to get brought out here. So, the Yugo though was very interesting, some of the things that, the features, and one of them was, if you shut the car off and your headlights were on, the headlights would go off. So you couldn't turn the headlights on unless the key was in the ignition.
Oh, wow.
So it was a means of preventing you from leaving your lights on and killing a battery or something. And the other interesting thing, they had a spare tire in the engine compartment. And the concept was if you got hit in the front, it was going to hit the tire, collapse it, and cause it to shove the engine under the car. Well, I didn't want to find out if that really worked. But I will say that my husband was rear-ended by a Cadillac, a big old tuna boat Cadillac. And he was at a dead stoplight waiting for it to change out where with a big old camel van in front of him, and he sees this older guy coming up, I mean, this guy was old, coming up behind him in this Cadillac, and he wasn't going fast, but he wasn't stopping. So Ricardo said, I put the brakes on, I put the parking brake on, and I got
Held on.
and it just pushed the bumper in, so we had to get a new bumper for it, but I mean, the car held up just fine. Well, we bought it, it was the first blue car off the truck when they had Yugos come out. So we bought it brand new, like in '85, I think. '85, no, it would have been closer to '89, closer when Demetri was born. And then the first year we were out here, winter killed it. It froze
It
the
didn't like it.
exhaust.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Actually, I think I was pregnant with Andre. So we had it a few years, but it killed the exhaust valve. And Small Car Motors said it was way too expensive to fix it for us personally. So we donated it to Willow Creek Church out of Barrington. They've got like 10,000 people congregation, it's huge. And so they have mechanics and they have, you know, they have all different kind of specialists in their congregation. So they would take the cars that you donate and they would fix them, get them road ready, and give them to single moms. So it only had about 40,000 miles on it when we got rid of it. And I said, it's a great little car for gas mileage, so they were gonna be able to fix it up for somebody that needed it. And we had like the Chilton book for Hugos. It's this really big book, and you know what a Chilton book
John used
is?
to have one of those for every car
Yeah,
we
the
had.
Chilton book
Oh,
is
yes,
the
he worked on all our
So you
cars.
get one for a specific car, so we had the book. And I
Shows
said,
all the parts and everything.
yes, so we had that book for
Yep,
that
everyone
car.
did.
And we told them, and they said, oh, this is great. You know, they came, picked it up, took it away, and they had it running the next day.
Really?
Yeah, and if we had the money, we could have too, but,
Right.
you know, it was just one of those things.
Wow.
So then,
Children's book was that thick?
yeah, it was,
Oh,
I know, it was so funny.
I know, it was
For you, I was
thinking it would be
that. For you, though, really, but what was funny is, like I said, I was working with Jeff Lyons' mom, Paulette, and she would do things all the time that were kind of, eerie because of the timing. She would say something and it would kind of happen, and Ricardo would always tell me, get numbers from it, get auto numbers. But she calls, you know, we go out to go look for a car, we go to Morrow Auto Mall. Morrow Auto Mall was still out there at the time, and they had on the lot this, it was called Garnett, it was this burgundy looking little Ford, two-door Geo Metro. So the only one they had on the lot. Ricardo liked it, we bought it, we went home that day, there's a message from Paulette on the phone. And I just know that the car you're looking for is going to be on that lot.
Oh, that's weird.
And I call her and I go, Ricardo, I want you to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And she goes, I told him I'm Glinda the Good. But she's always talking about the Wizard of Oz. But she would do stuff like that all the time, and it was just uncanny how things would just kind of go that way. But we come home with that car and she messages on the phone, and Ricardo goes, oh, just stop doing that.
Don't call her.
But we had that car. No, we had a Geo. We bought that we bought just before our new car. And we had that until 2007 when he was on the way home from Des Plaines, and it just stopped on a 2-lane bridge or 4-lane bridge with no shoulder to pull off of. And so they had to tow it home, and there was no hope. It had a lot of miles on it. But the tow truck driver, we didn't have to pay for any towing. And the tow truck driver left us, and I tipped him 20 because we didn't have to pay. Because, you know, Ricardo thought, oh my God, it's going to be such an expensive bill. The guy's like, no, you don't have to pay. And he left, and they had a 20 for him. So, but Ricardo was telling him about the pyramid. He goes, oh yeah, and because he said, how do I want to get back? What's the easiest way? He goes, oh, if you go down this way, and then you'll pass the pyramid. And he goes, a pyramid? And he goes, really? There's a pyramid, really? So the guy was real anxious to get out and go see this pyramid while it was still daylight. And it was so funny. And just go,
Have you ever been in that pyramid?
no. No, but Paulette knew Mrs. Onan, Eloise Onan, and she passed away from cancer, I believe. But she said it was the oddest thing to try and do the interior decoration on, because she had walls that went down at an angle and corners that were, so she said it was quite odd to decorate. It was different. But, yeah, it was, I talked to Mr. Onan from time to time, you know, for a while they had that big old, did you ever see it when it had that big old thing on top of
yeah.
it? Because
Yes.
it had a leak somewhere, so when a tornado or something went through here, and then he was able to get the insurance to pay to repair it. And, you know, because it was miserable having it. They said they had that thing in there, it was miserable. It covered the windows and everything, and so.
It's crazy. I tell you, the things out there. Just like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, she said it's quite unusual inside. And then Jimmy Onan, the son, who used to do the building here in Beach Park, you know, talking one time, I said something about the pyramid. He goes, yeah, I had to move out. And I go, why? And he goes, well, because I brought some friends to her, like it was at 2 in the morning or something. He had 3 friends in the house. He's coming downstairs in his underwear. There's people in there. So he goes, I had to move out. I'm laughing. I'm just thinking to myself, wow. I could just
Can you
picture
imagine?
this. Yeah, he's so funny. But, you know, Mr. Onan has some, you know, he has a lot of grand ideas, and he's been very successful with a lot of his ventures. And it's nice to be able to have that freedom to do it, so.
More power to him.
You know, just the different things he's been able to go off and do, have the money to do. So, but he does a lot of good, because he does tours and stuff, and he does donations to this different, you know, with, but he's, it's just interesting. I really love the pyramid of bingo. We took my nephew when he came out here, we were telling him about the pyramid, he didn't believe us.
You don't have any people do it.
It's,
You say a lot of things.
People are gonna actually build a pyramid. Yeah. Well, and before the trees used to be really mature in that area, and you could drive by and see it from 41. And then they grew and grew, and then it's kind of blocked it out.
Yeah.
You really couldn't see it from the road
Now they
anymore, because then he had the
Randy or
rubble.
something standing up out front.
Yes. And he got away with that because of the height, because he built up the gravel base for it, so.
They just
from-
gravel around.
Yeah, which wouldn't fly here.
Yeah.
But they allowed it to fly there. I mean, it's,
Something else.
it brings people there. I mean, look, does he own the Gel Motel or whatever that is?
Yeah, the one with the tarp on the
Sure.
truck. We were just talking about that. We went down to Elk Grove this weekend and we drove by that and I said, there's a tarp on that roof. And John, well, she had been there a while. And I said, isn't that Onan Roofing that owns that? And he started laughing. He goes, yeah, we won't go there.
That's the one with all the theme rooms, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was still there.
Well, I don't even know if it's still
I think
in
it's closed now. I think they closed it like within the last year.
I remember when my husband and I were first married, so that was 20 years ago, and I remember thinking, oh,
Yeah, that was.
now, give me a break. It was kind of like the Civerettes, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah, right.
Just one of those places that,
Before we had our kids, because Ricardo and I used to go to Disneyland all the time, and whenever we'd come back up, we'd pass the Mount Madonna Inn, which at the time was King of the King. That was a big, now, it was this big, huge room in our hotel, and it had theme rooms.
Okay.
So it had like a king.
Where was that?
It was the Mount Madonna Inn out in California. It was this big, walking, huge, big hotel, but it was pink. So on one of our trips back up, Ricardo had planned that we would just go ahead and stop there and stay overnight, because we'd never seen it before. So we go in there, well, what are the odds? They have a Mary Kay convention going on, so the whole parking lot is full of pink cars. So we, this is when Dallas used to be on, the series Dallas. And we had originally missed the series, or the season finale where Pam Ewing hit the Mercedes ran into the car. Well, it turned out that, for one thing, we get up there and they're telling us, the different rooms, and Ricardo goes, well, I would like to get something like under $80 or it's been in low. And they go, oh, okay, we have a room here at $75. He goes, oh, perfect. So they show you on the photo, you go up these stairs and you'll go here. And they use the big old picture to tell you how to get there. So we go walking up to our room and they all have names. Well, the room that we had said the what's left room. So we go, he goes, bitch. First thing he said, well, we go in there, and it was kind of cool because the carpet was all pieces and remnants from other rooms. You went in the bathroom. The bathroom was really elegant with the type of, it had this big, huge walk-in shower, and then it had these really elegant pedestal sinks, but all tile and all floor tile, and it was all just like curtains, the bedspread, it was very cool. But they had this really nice 2 leather Lazy Boy recliners, and that was the night they were going to show the repeat of the season finale. So first we went across the street because they were playing Roxanne. Yeah, Roxanne with Steve Martin, where it was like Serial de Bergerac, that movie.
Yes.
So we got to see that in the theater. Well, the next movie was going to be Dragnet. We said, we've seen that already, so we go back and we have our big popcorn, we're watching Dallas.
Life is
We're
good.
sitting in these recliners watching Dallas, and it was pretty cool. But the room, it was just, just everything, just all piecemeal, all the leftover remnants from everything, and we just had to laugh.
Well, they used to have a place out in Mundelein too.
Oh,
That
they
had
did?
like themes. Out near Gale Street Inn and Dover Strait out in that area.
I don't
Mundelein,
remember
whatever.
that. My sister, I just said, when she was talking about different rooms, one was like a, no,
There's
there's nowhere
this
there.
the Owens one.
Well,
There's not, I can't, there's nowhere there.
I'm gonna call her and ask her, 'cause one was like a space shuttle room, and it was like for honeymooners or what have you. I think they went out there once for their anniversary, because they laughed so hard. we just every time I walk through, we start laughing.
I would love to stay in a room that looked like the inside of Jeannie's bottle, and I think,
Yeah.
that's what I would love.
Yeah,
That is the only one I can think of right now. It's just, I think it'd be so much fun to stay in Jeannie's bottle.
They had like a
Brown bag.
Yes, and everything like brown
Always
wall.
look up, it looks like it goes like the.
Yes, 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 and, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one. They had a little restaurant, it was like a little German restaurant, and they had another place you could go. And the reason we didn't go to the other restaurant is it was really expensive for dinner, that's why we went to see the movie, because we could get something cheap to eat. But, because I think there was a Burger King or McDonald's or something too, but we had breakfast at this little German coffee shop thing that they had. And so what was funny is, the men's room, none of the men would go in there, because the women kept going in there, because they had this big rock wall, big like boulder rocks, and it was like one giant urinal. When you hit the beam, and you peed on this thing, the
water came out, so everybody wanted to look at it.
All the women were like, hey, come see this. It was so funny. So none of the men used the bathroom in that coffee shop. And then in the women's one, they had like a little toilet for a little girl, a little kid, and a little sink, little miniature sink. And we'd seen those at Disneyland later when we took the boys. It was, but it was so funny. It was just, come here. Like, you gotta see this. And then hilarious.
We were in Minneapolis for John's brother last year, and we were at one of those, what was it, Boca something or other, Boca Italian restaurant.
Oh, look at that.
That's not and Bobby's like, you gotta go check out the bathroom. And I'm looking at him like, how do you know about the women's bathroom? He said, well, your daughter told me, you gotta check out the bathroom. And I was like, okay, fine. Go in there, and it was wild. I mean, it just had a little bit of everything. I was like, oh, cool,
This is one in Wheeling, right?
No, this is in, I think there's one in Wheeling, this is in
We go to the
Minneapolis.
Wheeling one. We've been going there every year on Denisha's birthday since he was 4. And now we eat in the kitchen, though. They have the little setup where the Dawn, would go. So they've got the kitchen table, and I think you can seat up to 6 people in there.
Wow.
And you can watch them fixing the food as they go out. They'll say, this is a such and such, and then they go serve it, and it's really fun. But they have, because you go into the men's room, they have this big picture of Frank Sinatra, and then they have all these candles, like in a church. So Denisha and Audrey are doing it now, too. They go and light a candle for Frank. And they go to the bathroom.
So in one of the restaurants in Galena, and I can't
Oh,
remember
I
which
love
one,
Galena.
there is a poster in one of the women's bathrooms of this restaurant of a brass bed with this gorgeous man laying on his belly, but kind of like with his head up, just like cut, just like in his birthday suit.
Wow.
And we all huddled in there, my girlfriends.
We don't want to leave this room.
Is that the Italian one?
I don't remember because I've been to so many in there.
Yes, we haven't been there in a couple of years, probably 4 years now.
But they had a picture, I was like, they were
Yeah.
like, we get it off the wall.
Well, we went to the Vinny's, the Italian place in Galena.
Is that the one with the outside patio?
Yeah.
You go up the
You
stairs?
go up the stairs,
Yes, I like
like
that
stairs,
place.
and
Yes.
it's really good.
Yes.
And we went one year, and my daughter-in-law, I think was that year. It was my daughter-in-law that time that they went, and I said, we got to go to this place. The food's excellent, the wine is good, everything's good. Then this is our women's weekend, we go crafting weekend, the first week in October.
We go camping, and we go on Columbus
On
Day.
Columbus, that's the same weekend.
Yeah, no, it's not the first one, it's the second weekend, and then they have a
Yeah.
big craft weekend. Oh
It's
my God.
great.
And they go at the end of April for scouts, and it's just scouts from wall
Yes.
to wall, far as you
I love
can
the way.
see. But it's always wet, it's
Yeah.
always flooded.
Yeah.
We call it Lake Galena. It's always flooded.
One week, the waiter came up, and he just said, hi ladies, how you doing? And he had this deep baritone voice, and we all just kind of looked at him.
I went to a restaurant.
He got a heck of a tip.
In Appleton, Wisconsin, I was at a week-long conference for work, so I'm with all guys, and we go to this table, and this waiter comes up, and he's saying thing, and I was like, oh my God, is it you have the sexiest voice I have ever heard. And all the guys were like giving me a hard time, and he's like, I'm told that often, and I'm like, no doubt, because I just follow you around and listen to each other.
Yes, great.
Just to talk to me.
Have you ever gone to Tony and Tina's wedding? The interactive play that, it's a wedding that goes on and you come in and there's a bar.
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it. We've eaten at a restaurant with Rudy. We ate with him years ago. At a restaurant they had out on, I think on 21 in Washington or
Yeah,
something.
Tina, yeah.
Yeah,
Tina's
that was
and Tony's,
based on
but it
it.
was, yeah, but it wasn't,
The play
I don't
wasn't
think they
there.
went to a play.
Right, and so this is
The
how
food was really good there.
When Dimitri, my oldest one, he went, he has a white tux that he had for a wedding, he bought, or no, he wore it prom, and he bought it. So he wore this, a group of people from CLC were going down there, so he wore it. So people thought he was part of the thing, and they kept coming up and talking to him. And he said, so you go in and you're at the bar, and at the time he was only 20, I think 19 or 20, and so they had this woman, she was trying to hit on him. So we went, oh, Cougar Town, huh? So everybody was taken because she wasn't very attractive, I understand. She kept coming up to him. So then the next scene, they take you from the bar, you go into the church. Well, the priest kept talking to him. And there's one part, he goes, come here, we're going to take a picture. And he goes to take a picture. Well, they do stupid stuff, so when they start to snap the picture, the priest looks away. So it's a really dumb picture. So then they're doing stuff, and then they go to the reception. And that's where you eat, and they have spaghetti, and they have a whole buffet, and then they have champagne, and they have the wedding cake and stuff. Well, the one of the mamas, I don't know if she was Tony or Tina's mama, she comes over and she puts this napkin on Dimitri so he can't get it, and she's feeding him so he doesn't get anything on his white toast.
Oh, good gracious.
He had a really good time, and he had more fun probably than most of the others because they were playing with him, and so he had a good time. But when I had heard about that years ago because Paulette and a group of people went, and she said she was sitting there with a group of people at the table at the reception, and the priest comes up and he has his hairy chest and he's got his shirt unbuttoned. and he takes his hand and he rubs her hand and rubs it on his chest. He goes, remember Thornbirds?
Oh, my God.
And that's one of my favorite movies. So I was teasing Roma. I said she has a thorn bird, and she goes, that's right. And so she was going to watch the movie with Tony. But he said it was a lot of fun. It was a fun thing to go to.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm going to go ahead and go. I don't think you guys need me here.
No.
I think,
If anything happens.
It's coming up, everybody, the public's gone.
Yeah. Were they here?
No,
Three guys up here.
Yeah, they left over now.
But Gaffa Estes, the guy that has the drainage issue over on York House or whatever, well, he was going to come tonight because he wanted to hear about what was going on with the drainage thing. And so Chip actually called him this afternoon because I told Chip, I said, he's planning to come. It's his birthday. He's hoping to get a good birthday present with some good news. And Chip,
No good news, huh?
Chip goes, I think I'll give him a call, let him know what's going on with the process and everything. So he's going to just save him the trouble of coming out and stuff tonight.
All right. Yeah, I think you guys are
So you be careful up there.
When is your shift then? When are you done?
Well, I usually work from 10 until 7 a.m. But then I took tonight off to go meet friends.
Oh. Now, when you say you took tonight off, what time did you meet you're going to meet your friends?
Well, this usually lasts an hour. Yeah. So I'm just going to make Henry at 9.
Oh.
I'm going to be like an hour. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Where do you guys go to Henry?
Fireside?
Oh.
I've never been there. Have you been there?
Fireside in McHenry, I've never
It's
been
on
there.
120. I guess it's one of the kayak places.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's people that work at Vernon Hills and some people from my department. And unfortunately for me, they live like in Paddock, like Antioch, Conda. I'm the only one that lives out
Isn't
this
that the
way.
way it is?
Yeah, so I'm like, seriously?
You live in
Maybe I'm
Pittsburgh?
like, yeah, I'm in
Little
Pittsburgh.
further
Yeah,
west.
I'm in
Like
Cambridge.
Batman and 41.
Yeah, like when we meet like in the middle between them all, we have to go so far. Yeah, it's a little, why do we have to go so far west? So I told them I'll leave, and I said I'll drive to 120 and Hunt Club Road, this way at 120, past Chapel Hill. So I'm like, I'll see how the roads are. I'll give it to Hunt Club. And if it's horrible, I have four-wheel drive, it gives them out the nice.
Right.
And I said, and I'm not worried about now. I'm more worried about if we have 2 or 3 drinks and then coming home after having 2 or 3 drinks. You know,
You can't eat drunk.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you imagine being in your uniform, sitting in the bar, drinking?
But I think I was going to find her.
Good. Well, we like having you come here, so.
Don't get in any trouble.
No.
Just be careful.
Yeah, it just sucks to take the night off and have it so crappy.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like always me. I have, like my lieutenant says, he says, Andrea, if you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck. I'm like, I'm really beginning to feel that's true. But
You're laughing.
Come on.
All right,
Should I text him?
I am not,
Tell him
I'm telling you
to-
how many.
Just text him, I'm hungry.
Yeah, you're kidding.
Thanks, careful. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Oh, yes. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be safe.
No, I saw Linda stand up, and I was like, oh, yes, but no, she's just standing up because her back hurts, so everybody else is sick.
Because he's been taking over Will's position.
Yes.
And I was clearing my text messages, it's all like, where are you? I'm not for dinner. What are you doing?
I know.
Who are you with? Why? You know, because he doesn't tell me he has a 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock meeting. Then the day I think he had 3 o'clock, I went till 7 or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Seriously? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Whatever, just let me know if I'm good.
Right, exactly.
I don't care, you know, stay with me. I'm good with it. I have no problem. I have a lot to do, but
Right.
just let me know if I'm going to do 1 meal or 2.
Right.
Or if I'm going to get right. That's like, seriously? Oh. I had my grandson until 20 to 7. My daughter-in-law had doctor appointments this afternoon, which, she said, oh, I'll be here by 5:30. They were early. Each appointment was 45 minutes late. And then, yeah, and then she stopped by the house to pick up her dog that's been really sick. So she picked up a poo sample to drop off at the vet. They said, just wait 5 minutes and we'll tell you the results. Well, 15, 20 minutes later, they had the results, but then the doctor wanted to talk to her. So she waited another 10 minutes, and she said, forget it. And then it took her 45 minutes to get to my house from Kenosha, which she says traffic was so bad. And I was like, I said, you're waiting for people. You get tired of them.
It seems like lately, these meetings have been going longer and longer. Not quite this long, but.
I think it's because we have someone giving a little bit of directive, to not do the Reader's Digest condensed version.
Yes. Oh, Regina standing.
Remember how it was with the planning and zoning meetings? Planning and zoning meetings used to be wham bam, thank you ma'am, until it was, no, we gotta go each of the standards, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do that. Gotta put some thought effort into this.
Well, I do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I sit down, and boy, I can do that at any moment, work, nurse going through things, John's dead, and I'll be in the corner. And it's so toasty there, and it's so, at the end of the day, before dinner, it's like, and the other night I had, my daughter-in-law, they called me at 11:40 at night, I had to go up to their place, he had to run her to the emergency room, because she was having, I think it's a gallbladder problem, but they haven't diagnosed it yet, but she was having a chest pain. So I was up there till 2 in the morning. And then I know all the time with it. Yeah, something simple like that.
Thank you all for Take her away, Chrissy. 2 nights in a row.
Tell people that phone is so dead. Yeah, I know.
Wait a minute.
You told us
We
you were
haven't
going to
adjourned the meeting yet.
It doesn't matter, they all know who we are. I'm waiting for the answer.
Okay.
I don't watch this meeting.
I'm ready to just watch, see what happens.
It's the same people who were in those seats before we.
You will be
You know,
You can do it. Oh, okay.
we will reconvene the village board meeting. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gus, trustee Hucker, trustee Miller,
Here.
trustee Addison, trustee Siddick, trustee Wells.
Here. We are here. Do we need to report anything after this?
Just that, no, you don't, you're not taking any action.
We have nothing to report as a result of the executive session. Do we have any other business?
One other quick thing, I'd just like to welcome the newest member of our team, Mr. Marvelic, Mr. Ken. I'd like to welcome him to our team. I've heard he's been doing an outstanding job, and we'd like to welcome him to the club.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
To the club.
Look forward to working with all.
Who's going to show him the secret handshake?
You didn't say most. Thank you for not saying most of you. That's appreciated.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Bahar.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.